This is the first time I've been in St. Teresa's with Don in spirit. He's usually sitting with the priests, the altar. And I feel his presence, obviously, here today. So this guy and his wife are driving down the street, and all of a sudden he looks in the rearview mirror and he sees these flashing lights. And it's a police car, so he pulls over, and the policeman comes to the car and he says to him, "Mister, I don't know if you realize this or not, but your wife fell out of the car 3 blocks ago." Guy says, "Oh, thank God. I thought I was going deaf." I start this eulogy off with a joke, because that was one of Don's greatest talents, joke and storytelling. No one did it quite like him. But it was more than just his humor. He had a talent to lift your soul, lighten your load, and make you laugh even in your darkest moments. Up until the last few months, I would get a call from Don almost every day, missing very few days. Sharky, call me Sharky. Diane and I were, one of our visual days, we're sitting with him, and I asked him, I said, "Don, why do you keep calling me Sharky?" He says, "Because I remember in grade school when you were being followed home by a bully, and she came up behind you and picked a fight with you, and you laid her out." So those kinds of things would stick with him, memories, very dear to him. So he'd say, "Sharky, there was this guy who walked into a bar with a frog. And when he did, the cares of my day drifted away." This personality trait was also what helped him get through the trials and tribulations, the anxieties of his life. We all fight our demons, and at some point, Don did, and was able to overcome them with his humor. I and our whole family thank you all, each and every one of you, for being here today to honor Don's memory and to celebrate his life. Thank you to all the priests. Father Urell, thank you for giving me this time to speak. And Father Reynolds, it's good to see you back again. Thanks to all the priests, to Don Deacon brothers, the Catholic daughters, Knights of Columbus, and all the members of St. Teresa's Church for your prayers and outreach to Don and our family. I cannot tell you how heartwarming it was to see Don's men friends coming into his room, giving him hugs and kisses and holding his hand and praying with him with tears in their eyes, each telling us how much he meant to them and their stories of their friendship and some dirty jokes that they shared. There are those present today, my family and friends, who have been at my side, and I say that without your support, this experience would not have been bearable. My heart is heavy for his children, Lisa, Tony, Vanessa, and James, who he loved, protected, and cared for from the time of their birth to his death. I kid him about having babies with his trophy wife, and he says, "I can make them, I just can't lift them." He loved them dearly, and his grandchildren, Anthony, Amy, Aubrey, and Emma. He had a special place in his heart for all of them. Then there is Diane. I know God brings people together for a reason. When Diane came into his life, she brought with her love and devotion that fulfilled his very soul. She has supported him and enriched his life with 2 beautiful children, and promoted his love of God and the Holy Church with her belief in the commitment to Catholicism. You gotta watch those converts. They usually jump in with both feet. It was with her support and encouragement that Don went through 7 years at the seminary responding to the calling of becoming a deacon. It meant so much to him and brought so much meaning to him and his family. He was able to serve for 5 years in the role of deacon, visiting the ill, going to prison to counsel, teaching, marriages, baptisms, and giving the Holy Eucharist. Diane's constant support and her being at his side through his illness has inspired us all and left me in awe of her strength. Know, Diane, that your family is always with you and the children for whatever you need. Growing up with Don, I was very, very close. I loved him very much. He was the youngest of the 3 of us. My older sister, Rosemary, of blessed memory, died when she was 50 years young. As we grew up, she was our surrogate mother, having full responsibility for us after school when my parents were at work. He and I would play together, ride bikes, climb trees, play in the bayous with the crayfish and all the other critters. He loved me because I was kind of a tomboy and adventurous. We delighted in driving Rosemary crazy. For those of you who were here for my mom's eulogy, Don was at his best. Many of you afterwards said you wanted him to eulogize you. Have to take a rain check. He was my go-to person for everything. He always had the answer. I called him the king of trivia. Our daily talks included so many things. One of his favorite subjects, of course, was religion. He spoke of the Hebrew Bible and how it was the foundation of the beliefs and commonalities of our religion and not the differences. He would often give sermons on the Shema and the Holocaust, different aspects of Judaism in his homilies. I often was seated right here in this very church without telling him. He mentioned to me that Psalm 51, King David's prayer of repentance, was one of his favorites, and he would say it every day in his daily prayers. This psalm talks about David being very special to God, even in the light of his transgressions. A psalm not only of repentance, but of forgiveness. I will say this psalm and think of Don each night in my daily prayers from now on. In closing, I want to share with you the day after Don signed himself into hospice. We arrived in Houston Hospice at 10 a.m. that morning, and we were there most of the day. We were waiting for Father Urell to come to do last rites when we turned to see Cardinal DiNardo walking into Don's room with his assistant, Father Jude. I'll never forget the look on Don's face and the relief and the light that came over him. The Cardinal and Don prayed and chatted together. He blessed us all, and he thanked Don for his service as being a deacon. Don said to him, "Not a very good investment for God, I'm afraid. 7 years of studying, he only got 5 years of service from me." Shortly after the Cardinal left, in walked a dear friend, one of our favorite rabbis. He also prayed with Don and offered the priestly blessing. About an hour later, the chaplain from St. Luke's came, and in a very angelic voice, she sang a prayer of healing from the Jewish faith, invoking the mother, and at Don's request, the father, to bring healing to his soul. Last but not least, Father Urell did finally come. And Don did penance and received last rites. After Don gave a little talk to us in the room, he said he had a pretty good idea of where he was going, and where this road would take him, but he wasn't quite sure. He couldn't be quite sure. Wherever that is, he said, I'll take you all in my heart with me. He apologized if it got too hot by some chance, but nevertheless, we would be with him. After Father had given Don last rites, Father Uriel asked him to bless him. Father knelt at Don's bedside, and he did bless Father Uriel with a very beautiful, beautiful blessing. And with that, Father Uriel began to weep. The feelings that people had for my brother and the vast amount of people that loved him so, I cannot get over it. I can't get over it. We live in our little worlds, and we don't realize the legacy of somebody even as close as a brother. I have to say to every sister in this room, relationship with your brother is very important. If it's not right now, make it right. Because it's a treasure, and it's something I will have with me forever. It was the next day that Don slipped into a coma-like state. For 9 days, we sat there and watched him slip slowly away into the arms of all waiting for him in God's paradise. I will close with this thought. It was given to me by a dear friend this past week. Grief never ends, but it changes. It's a passage, not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It's the price of love. Thank you.